If you talk all the time, you'll never hear what anybody else has to say, therefore. All you'll have to talk about is your own conversation. The same is true for people who think all the time. Constant chit-chat of symbols and images and talk and words inside your skull. Now, if you do that, all this stuff, time you'll find that you've nothing to think about except thinking, and just as you have to stop talking to hear what others have to say, you have to stop thinking to find out what life is about, and the moment you stop thinking, you become into immediate contact with what Kay is called so delightfully, the unspeakable world, the non-verbal world. Some people would call it the physical world. But these words, physical, non-verbal, material, are all conceptual, and is not a concept. So when you are awake to that world, you suddenly find that all the so-called differences between self and other life and death, pleasure and pain are all conceptual, and they're not there. They don't exist at all. When the old master Yakuju was asked, what is then? He said, when hungry eat, when tired sleep. But they said, well, isn't that what everybody does, aren't you? Just like ordinary people. Oh, he said, no, they don't do anything of the kind when they're hungry. They don't just eat. They think of all sorts of things when they're tired. They don't just sleep, but dream all sorts of dreams. We have been running around far too much. It's all right. We've been active, and our action has achieved a lot of good things. But as Aristotle pointed out long ago, and this is one of the good things about Aristotle, he said, the goal of action is contemplation. In other words, busy, 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 busy. But what's it all about? Especially when people are busy because they think they're going somewhere, they're going to get something. And attained something there's quite a good deal of point to action. If you know you're not going anywhere, if you act like you dance or like you sing or play music, then you know you're not going anywhere. You're just doing pure action. But if you act with the thought in mind that as a result of action, you are eventually going to arrive at some place where everything will be all music, right? Then you are on a squirrel cage, hopelessly condemned to what the Buddhists call sara, the round or rat race of birth and death, because you think you're going to get somewhere you're already there. But the point is, one cannot act creatively except on the basis of stillness, of having a mind that is from time to time capable of stopping music thinking. And so this practice of sitting may seem very difficult at first because if you sit in the Buddhist way, it makes your legs ache. Most Westerners start to fidget. They find it very boring to sit for a long time. But the reason they find it boring is that there's still music thinking. If you weren't thinking, you wouldn't notice the passage of time. And as a matter of fact, far from being boring, the world, when looked at without chatter, becomes amazingly interesting. The most ordinary sights and sounds and smells, the texture of shadows on the floor in front of you all these things without being named and saying, that's a shadow, that's red, that's brown, that's brown, that's brown, that's somebody's foot. When you don't name things any longer, you start seeing them. You see, if you force sound into 5 tones, you force color into 5 colors. For blind and deaf, the world of color is infinite, as is the world of sound. And it is only through stopping fixing conceptions on the world of color and sound that you really begin to hear it and see it. So this, shall I be so bold as to use the word discipline of meditation or zazen lies behind the extraordinary capacity of Zen people to develop such great arts as are the gardens, the tea ceremony, the calligraphy, and the grand painting of the Sun Dynasty and of the Japanese Omi tradition. They found in the very simplest things of everyday life, music magic, and the words of the poet Hokoji, marvelous power and supernatural activity. Drawing water, carrying wood. The easiest way to stop thinking is first of all to think about something that doesn't have any meaning, or listening to a sound that has no meaning, because that stops you thinking, because you become fascinated in the sound. Comes a point when the sound is taken away and you're wide open now at that point. There will be a kind of preliminary so-called satori, and you'll think, wowee, that's it. You'll be so happy. You'll be walking on air. When Suzuki Dietz was asked, what is it like to have satori, he said, well, it's like ordinary, everyday experience, except about to and off the ground. From the standpoint of Buddhism, there is no fundamental difference between the transcendental world and this everyday world. The bodhisattva, You see, who doesn't go off into a nirvana and stay there forever and ever, but comes back and lives ordinary, everyday life to help other beings to see through it too. He doesn't come back because he feels he has some sort of solemn duty to help mankind and all that kind of piety. He comes back because he sees the two worlds are the same. He sees all other beings as Buddhas. He sees them, to use a phrase of G.K. Chesterton. But now, a great thing in the street seems any human nod. We move in strange democracy of the million masks of God. The world is seen in an ordinary everyday state of music. Consciousness to find out that that is really no different from the world of supreme ecstasy. Because here is the light that brilliant, blazing energy brighter than 1,000 suns, which is locked up in everything. Now imagine this, imagine you're seeing it vivid, vivid light so bright. It's beyond light, it's so bright, and you watch it receding from you, and on the edges like a great star that becomes a rim of red, and beyond that, a rim of orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, you see, this great mandala appearing, this great sun, and beyond the violet, there's black, black, like obsidian, not flat black, but transparent black, like lacquer, and again blazing out of the black, as though along with this light there comes sound. It's a sound so tremendous with the white light that you can't hear it, so piercing that it seems to annihilate the ear music. But then, along with the colors, the sound goes down the scale in harmonic intervals, down, 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 until it gets to a deep, thundering bass, which is so vibrant that in turn it turns into something solid, and you begin to get the similar spectrum of textures now. All this time, you've been watching the kind of a thing radiating out, but it says, you know, this isn't all I can do. And the rays start going dancing like this. And naturally, the sound starts going waving too as it comes out. And then the textures start varying themselves. And they say, well, you've been looking at this thing, as I've been describing it so far, in a flat dimension. That's at a third dimension. It's third dimension. It's going to come right at you now. See this way. Meanwhile, it says it's not just that we're going to go. Why like this? We're going to do little curly cues. We're going to go, you like this. And then sudden, you see in all the little details have become so intense that all kinds of little subfigures are contained within what you thought were originally the main figure, and the sound starts going all different amazing complexities of sound all over the place, and this thing's going, 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 and you think you're going to go out of your mind, and suddenly it turns into why us, sitting around here, here,